Hello everybody and welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm Part 5, Wolfram Beta. This is going to be kind of a two-part thing, well not a two-part thing, but just I'm going to be doing a math lecture in direct response to Lex Fridman's and Stephen Wolfram's recent interview on Lex Fridman's YouTube channel. I don't know, probably about a year ago, Stephen Wolfram came out and said, "Hey guys, I think I have a project to show you a way to the foundations of physics." I do think that's a stretch, but just off the get-go, I do think there's some mathematics and linguistics that are pretty good in there. I think he does have good personal intuition. We've discussed in my other lectures about realization, but realization, a moment of realization far precedes a proof, but he certainly has had many personal realizations. But we'll be going through the interview, not line by line, but I watched the whole, it's like 4.5 hours, I watched the whole thing, minus like a 30-minute clip of quantum mechanics, and I responded to it and took notes. So I'll just go through there, what I think is good, bad, and incorrect about his project. But the reason is because it's on Lex Fridman's channel, and Lex titled it A Theory of Everything. Throughout the interview, he just calls it his project, so I'm not going to be too much of a dick there. I am going to try to be pretty professional, if I can do that. But it is what it is the basis of mathematics. We've demonstrated that people can't open their mouths and speak without doing those demonstrations. But now we're going to take that a step further, right? We have mathematics, we have language, and then we have sound. So now we're going to derive the theory of everything, which it's not that complicated, from sound alone. Vibration is the basis of sound, which is overwhelmingly evident. Vowels represent vibration, consonants represent modification to the vibration. Sounds construct syllables, syllables construct words, and rhythm structures grammar. So now I want you make the sound of vibration. Now say the letters U-M. Now say the letters I-N-G. Ing. Ing is literally the sounds we went through from like getting punched in the gut to formalizing resonance in the structure of words. So again, like it's that simple, but ing is a fundamental, maybe the fundamental, I would say the fundamental syllable. I-N-G. And just think of all the linguistic correlations that directly produces. Right? You go read my thesis. What is the most general word for any object? Thing. Ing, thing, sing, ring, ding, fling, bling, swing. All of those are literally just a consonant and then this syllable. So if you want to have a theory of everything, it would have to predict the statement theory of everything. Everything. What's the difference between anything and everything? Something. Again, we'll be talking about Wolfram's modeling. We'll be talking about this in Wolfram's own modeling terminology here shortly, but when you solve something, there's the ing again, and you solve it at complete generality, that statement of what's the difference between everything and anything, something, it's just a fact. It's not, you can't really make other logical deductions from it, but it's true. So if you wanted the theory of everything, you'd have to produce the word everything. And, well, seeing as we've already done it, and this is the only way to do it, this is the only theory. But it's really, he said, I just wanted to point out but like I said, well, let's just get into the conversation now. All right, so, and again, I haven't done a lot of research into a specific project, but again, if you can't say something, you don't know something. So if you can't sit and discuss in a casual conversation with another person of decent competence, then it's just uncertainty on your end. I would like to say, clearly, Stephen Wolfram's accomplished in both physics and engineering, big time. I use Wolfram Alpha all through school. Shout out for that. But I also think not to bring finances into the conversation, but if you've made a lot of money, you can sit around and think for a while. There's a lot of biological reasons that you're going to come to some conclusions. And if you've had technical training in physics and math, and then you actively try, like I said, there's effective, immediate chance you've solved something. So right off the bat, again, I listened through the whole conversation just to try to get the gist of what's going on. I think he does have, like I said, good personal intuition and a mathematical model. And so this is what he calls multi-way graphs, which is really just a network, which he talks about that in the... I'm giving you the overview of what I got out of the conversation, and I'm going to go through the conversation. But a multi-way graph is just a physical or a mathematical representation along with algorithm and some rules just to predict things like any other theory. The two concepts that he presents are computational irreducibility, which, all things considered, I give that concept an A+. I totally agree with everything he said in terms of biological implications, computation implications, like computer implications. But I totally agree with that. We are tension controls rhythm. We have the ability to choose. We are the ultimate computers. We are not computers, but I totally get what he's saying. I follow his intuition 100%, and I think it's insightful. Causal invariance, that was tautology to me. I didn't really get what he meant. Invariance, let's break that down. Causal, something that causes something. Invariance, something that does not change. I pulled it up right off the Wolfram website, and it says, essentially, causal invariance means that no matter which evolution is chosen for a system, the history is the same in the sense that the same events occur and they have the same causal relationships. Again, there's not enough substance for me to even, it's super general, it doesn't point to anything. And then the other two pictures I just want you to have in your head are physics, language, and math. Math, the center, language surrounding it, and physics surrounding that. And proof is creating a multi-way graph with as much breadth and as much branches as you possibly can. So now going through the conversation. I'm gonna restart the video clip because my camera can only record 12 minutes. So I did not take notes for the first hour. I think they were just getting started. Clearly, Wolfram has more physical competence than Lex Friedman. So again, I'm not judging his entire work in physics just on one conversation. There's a good chance Lex didn't know the right questions to ask. But at an hour and 20, he says discrete space. That is incorrect. Nothing discrete is a concept that I want to get to. I don't have a lot to say there right now. But space is the absence of matter 100% of the time, 100% of its natural definition for the word space. So when you try to quantize space, that doesn't even make any sense at all. That is physically incorrect. And then he also talks about continuity. Everything is connected, nothing is touching. The electric charge of electrons repel each other, so they're not actually physically touching. So he talks about quantizing space. That's, again, I don't even know what's attempted to being occurred there. At 1:25, an hour 25, he says a graph is a plot of, or Lex points out, he says, what is a graph? And then Stephen Wolfram immediately says a network, which I totally agree with the word network, and I don't agree with the word graph. A graph is a plot of variables. But that was super trivial. And then at an hour 26, Stephen says there's nothing but space, fundamentally incorrect. 135 is the causal invariance. It does not define it. It's not defined on the website. I did not get a definition out of the discussion. 141, he talks about invariance and uniqueness. I don't know even know what I just have invariance and uniqueness written down. Don't know there. 148, he says that these causal graphs produces special relativity. No, it doesn't. It has to produce the word special. And speciality produces the word special. So not directly. Again, it could be nitpicking. There could be more substance there. I don't know. 152, you see him use the word dimensionality in the proper fundamental ontology. At an hour 54, it says you can derive general relativity and special relativity, but he doesn't provide any definitions or any substance or outline of the proof. At an hour 56, he talks about the continuum limit. I put question marks because it sounded kind of funky, but I did have a little bit of intuition, so I'm not sure what he meant there. And then at the mark 2 hours and 4 or 2 hours and 1, 2 hours and 1, I think. My handwriting's sloppy, I'm sorry. Stephen says, it is very likely space was infinite dimensional. No. It is absolutely physically certain that the dimensionality of the universe progressed as natural numbers. 0, 1, 2. Your computational irreducibility is the result of physical stabilization, which I've covered in my other lectures. He says at 2 hours and 4 minutes, he says space-like hypersurfaces, and I put word salad's getting pretty fucking crazy here. And then it says at 2 hours and 8 minutes, it's the definition of mass. I just have no. At 2 hours and 13 minutes, Lex says he's seen a lot of beautiful compilations. Lex, I've also seen a lot of beautiful compilations, not on YouTube. Check out Pornhub for that. But 219, he says every week we know it a little better. Don't know why I wrote that down. I think I wrote that down because at the beginning of his announcement, I'm certainly positive he did not know of me. And at this point, this might even be reference to the work that I send to people, and that allows him to draw implications for his work, or simply just they're progressing their work themselves. Again, I'm not an arrogant fucking dick. I am sometimes if I need to be, but not really. Then 2 hour 2:23, at the mark 2 hours and 23 minutes, he says atoms of space does not exist. That is fundamentally incorrect. That is a logical conclusion drawn from your incorrect understanding of space. 2 hours and 32 minutes, he says quantum space is not physical space. Fundamentally incorrect. Space is space. It is what it is. A is A. Space is space. Quantum just means small. He doesn't know what he's talking about physics there. At the mark 3 hours and 6 minutes, he raises a good point. Why is spin quantized? And that's because it's because directions come in pairs. But there's a lot of work and a lot of my personal I don't know there. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. But then he says a hypergraph. So I wasn't sure if he meant something different between a multi-way graph and a hypergraph, or if it's the same thing. And it might be different, I just didn't pick up on it. And what is a spinner? I think that's a valid open physics question. And at 3:06, he also discusses the Hopf vibration, which is, it demonstrates that you need 720 degrees of rotation to return to a starting point. 3:09, he talks about invariance again. And then 3:12, he says graphs underlie space and time. And the answer to that is no. Again, he changed the word graph from Lex's graph to network, which I agree with, and then he goes back and says graphs underlie space and time. I'm pretty sure that's Stephen Wolfram, that's Wolfram, not Lex, but no, just holistically no. is there a fundamental rule? Is there a fundamental theorem that all answers will produce from? And this is 309, 306 to 309 is where I really liked the conversation. And I totally agree with everything Stephen says. No. Using the same diagram he has, let's call this node of the network math, this node of the network linguistics. Well, linguistics would be above math, but that's not the point here. The point here is, building theory is like an ant with a very elaborate anthill that is just slightly too big. He's doing a lot of work on his, we'll just use a house. He's doing a lot of work on his kitchen. Then the bathroom needs remodeled. Then he goes remodels the bathroom. Well, now his YouTube channel's got a couple extra followers, so he has more money, so he can build a bigger thing on the garage. So then he goes and builds the garage. So he's built the kitchen, the bathroom, and then the garage. But by the time he's done building the garage, the kitchen's, the sink's running again, the tiles are cracked. So he has to go back and build the kitchen. Fundamental theorems, which we discussed on the first slide, the most general word for an object is a thing. They build with time. And they build with time on a personal level, on a species level, on a society level, on a global universal level. So I holistically followed his argument and holistically agree. A fundamental theorem, there's not a fundamental theorem for an entire theory, but there are fundamental theorems for classes of fundamental theorems. And they just build each other, right? That will never stop. It doesn't stop for me personally. That won't stop for Stephen. That won't stop for the human species. That won't stop for the big old world out there. So I thought that was a really good, part of the conversation. Let's make sure my camera's still on. Cool beans, cool beans, cool beans. I like those cool beans. And he talks about multi-way graphs versus hypergraphs. I was not sure the difference. At 3 hours and 17 minutes, Lex creams his pants to more word salad. You can see a lot throughout the interview. Lex going like this. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh. There's that South Park meme with one of the South Park guys on his computer. That's what I keep picturing there. At 3:23, Stephen says ping time. Ing, thing, ping. There's him using the fundamental theorem of linguistics. At 3 hours and 26 minutes, he says the universe is not hypercomputational, is the key principle. That is why I give computational irreducibility an A+, because it is completely correct. In addition to that, we get new kind of limits. We get new case studies. Let's imagine someone can derive all of science and can produce fundamental theorems like they breathe. Is there a limit to that? Demonstrably, yes. So he goes on to talk about, at 3:37, there will be a physical realization of maximum information between languages. Totally agree, I thought that was a great thought. 3:34, multiple expressions produce a multi-way graph. I don't know there. 3:35, no upper bound on the incompleteness theorem. Good explanation. He says a path of infinite length. I totally agree. He talks about what is the continuum limit a million years from now for physics or theory for humanity. I think that's a great thought. 340, he talks about the Riemann hypothesis, the twin prime conjecture, the Cold-Bach conjecture, the Collatz conjecture, maybe being undecidable. I will do a separate video on the decidability of theorems because I see what he's saying there, but you can solve problems that are not properly asked, and it's pretty much proof by swallow up the whole fucking problem. But I do want to say more there, just not for this video or just not for this clip. At 4:02, he talks about gauge theory and Weinstein. And I would 100% like to see Eric Weinstein and Stephen Wolfram duke it out. Eric Weinstein starts his theory with MC Escher's hands. Fuck no, Eric. You don't start You don't start with MC Escher's hands, bro. You start with a physical observation. That was funny. That's not in this video. At 4 hours and 18 minutes, he's wrong about the second incompleteness theorem. I've proven that incorrect. I did like his understanding of the first one. 420, nice. How can there be this thing when it feels like a definite thing? There's Stephen Wolfram again using the fundamental theorem of linguistics. And then at 421, he says a special thing. Again, that's how you produce special relativity. So he said, all in all, I think causal invariance as a principle, I give that a... Sorry, my camera cut off right at the air then, but I gave causal invariance a C- for a grade, because I think that, it definitely needs work, and it might be just tautology to begin with. But the last thing I wanted to say is, Stephen, what the flying fuck is an idea? You had several ideas in your conversation. What the fuck is that? Second of all, what is an issue? Issue, bro. It's a fucking issue, bro. But thanks for watching From Rhythm to Algorithm Part 5, Wolfram Beta. And that's just an edgy title. So I thought it was pretty cool. But check out the conversation and check back for more.